Alright, hello Guild Wars 2 gamers, Muckluck here, and this is another episode of I Tried, where I, a player with a lot of hours in the game, am trying out a build that I am not fluent in to see what it's like, see if the grass is greener on the other side, and share my thoughts on it. Today I tried the Heal-A-Lack Spectre. Now, I have tried the Heal-A-Lack Spectre out once before. It was quite a long time ago. There's been a lot of patches since then. At the time that I last tried it, I rated it as one of the most awful things to play I had ever experienced in this game. There's a few reasons. One, you had to frequently stealth your team, which would turn when you get it stealthed by any source, your attack turns off. So if you're auto attacking like 1-1-1-1, it just stops until you hit another button. So you basically bring the group's DPS down by frequently stealthing them and them having to hit a button to break out of it, and it pauses attacks frequently. Another reason was you would have to target an enemy, target an ally, target an enemy, target an ally, target an enemy, target an ally. Totally doable, kind of tedious. All right, so it was not enjoyable to play. If you were willing to jump through all those hoops, it was able to perform. You know, it could do healing, it could do boons, but it was not fun to play. So this is me trying it again, and I've heard that there's been a lot of QOL improvements since the last time I gave it a look, and gotta say, it feels better. So just jumping into it, what build did I try? At the time of this recording, there is a version of this build on numerous community websites because the Heal Spectre's been out for a long time. However, you know, this is like the newest version of it. I mostly used information that I got from Guild Gen and also from Snowcrows. And I'll have links to both of those in the description down below. Their builds are extremely similar. There's only one trait difference, which is right here. And the stats that they use on their gear is different, but most of it is the same stuff. So I kind of just took some stuff that I like from both. So I'm going to show you what I ended up running for this little experiment and share that with you now. So first of all, this is the build. We're doing Shadow Arts 111 and Trickery 312 and Spectre 133. Now, the other website says to use Spectre with that one right there. This is a possibility of a big heal when you come out of your Shroud mode around you. This one is you get more Condi damage and also you get more healing power based on your Condi damage. And because we're taking that trait, I was running Plague Doctor's gear. Plague Doctor's gear has very high survivability. You see I've got 26,000 hit points. It has good healing power, it has good concentration, and it has solid condition damage. Now, if you, this is kind of like being 2/3 of a healer and also half a DPS at the same time. If you feel like you needed more healing output, which I never felt that way, but if you feel like you needed more, you could run any of the other versions of this build on these websites. There's Minstrels, there's Givers, there's Harriers, etc. I was using Plague Doctor for today's experiments. I was using, okay, I have full legendary except a Scepter. So my Scepter had the wrong stats. That was one single item. That was less than 1% difference to the total number output, but it ended up being fine. But I was running Concentration and Demons, which was one of the suggestions to run. I could have run Transference for a bit more healing instead of Demons, but again, didn't really feel necessary. My offhands were a pistol and a dagger. And I'm gonna be honest, I think in the entire time I played today, I never hit the 4 key or the 5 key. So this could be empty and I wouldn't have noticed other than the stats being missing. And yeah, Plague Doctor on everything. Oh, and the runes, I was running Rune of Tormenting, again, just leaning into the Plague Doctor thing. And I never, even on Bone Skinner, because I tested it doing all the daily strikes, even on Bone Skinner, Old Lion's Court, Temple of Phoebe, I had enough healing for everything, even though I was taking little bits of damage here and there from the Plague Doctor build that I copied. But know that if you were feeling nervous about your healing output, you could easily change Plague Doctor for like Minstrels or Givers and change like Demons to Transference for the Sigil, and you could get more healing out of this than what I even experienced here today. All right, so how do you play it? So first thing, break this down into a few digestible steps. All right, so let's say you're in combat, you're tapping something, and you press F1, boom, that's a lot of boons. So the first thing you do is you press F1 pretty much every time it's up, and that applies quite a number of boons, and you just keep doing that. Okay, second thing, each time it's up, you press Well of Bounty, and then you do the 2 in it 3 times. Okay, so that takes over half of your initiative, so you need to stockpile a little bit of this. And that does a whole bunch of blast finishers in the Well of Bounty. It gives you a bunch of boons, and also every time you do a blast finisher in a well, that will make a dark aura. So hold on a second, if I do this and this, you see I got a dark aura. okay? And the Dark Aura, whenever you get Dark Aura, you heal nearby allies. Also, whenever you grant Dark Aura, you cure condition to nearby allies. And so basically every time that you use a well and you're hitting 2, that's AoE heal and cleanse, AoE heal and cleanse, AoE heal and cleanse. It's great. All right, so just, whenever you can get a well down. Now, Well of Bounty, you do pretty much every time it lights up because it helps with your boon up time. Well of Bounty, and then 2, like probably 3 times before it wears off. And then it wears off just a moment later, and then do something else. So that's that, and then your F1 on cooldown, and then let's talk about the Shroud, all right? So the main thing, there's a few different ways to do this, but the easiest one to digest that I saw was you go into Shroud, again, you hit steal if it's available, you hit 2, that's your alacrity, and then just 1 until the 2's back up, hit 2 a second time, and then leave. That's the easiest way to keep the alacrity up, is when Shroud's available, you go Shroud, 2, auto attack for a minute, 2 a second time, leave Shroud. Okay? So you keep doing that, add that to what you're already doing. Well of Bounty, 3 hops in the air, steal, F2, 2, and then auto, and then 2 again, and then leave. And then look at these juicy boons. All right, we got regen, we got prot, we got alacrity, vigor, swiftness, fury, 25 stacks of might. Very simple. Now let's talk about the other Shroud skills. The other Shroud skills, 3 is a heal around you. 3 is barrier around you, 4 is healing around you, 5 is stability, Aegis, and also some healing around you. So if you're in Shroud and the teammate needs more healing or more barrier, then instead of 2 autos 2, do 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. And you can just hit all those keys and it's a bunch of barrier and healing on your teammates for no cost. So that's not too bad at all. Now, that's the rotation. The rotation, like what are you always doing is Bounty 2, 2, 2, and then Shroud 2, bonk, 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 2, leave Shroud, and steal every time it lights up. Those things are supplying constant heals, constant barrier, constant condition cleanse, and constant boons to your team. Note the quickness is coming from the console for testing purposes. This build does not supply quickness, that's just for testing, all right? So what other tools do we have besides that? Okay, the heal well is just a ton of healing, right? So if you use this well, it's a bunch of healing, and then while we're in it, why not? We can hit 2 more times, and when you're in any of your wells, you can tap 2 a few times to do the big heal condi cleansing explosions. All right, but this one, use this when you need to heal people. Well of Silence is primarily for CCing target and also condition cleansing allies. The tooltip on this sucks. It doesn't say how many conditions it cleanses. After looking into it, it cures 5. It does 1 per pulse for 5 pulses. Doesn't say it on the tooltip. But again, if you're in a pinch and it's like, let's say your Well of Bounty and also your Well of Healing is on cooldown, you can just throw Well of Silence and you could just do a couple of jump up and downs, and that's more healing, more condi cleansing. Any of your wells can do that. The elite skill, I brought Basilisk Venom, just a big fat CC for anyone who's not a thief main and they're considering it. When you hit this, it puts a buff on your whole party. The whole party, on their next hit, they do 150 CC. So everyone's already attacking, the break bar comes up, you hit this button, and just almost instantly, it's a total of 750 CC if all 5 people do it. It's 150 times 5. So it's a little cast bar, and then boom, huge CC from 5 people. So very simple, and you just use that when you need it. This slot is a flex slot. You got a few options here. Let me leave combat for a second, just a moment. Okay, I was running Shadow Refuge. Shadow Refuge, it doesn't say it on the tooltip, but it revives. It put that on a downstate teammate, and it revives them for 5% per second for 5 seconds. Combined with you helping out, can get people up pretty quick. Now, the downside here is it makes your party invisible, which it turns their attacks off. So if possible, don't just use this whenever. You only want to use this when you need to save a life. It also does a sizable amount of healing. However, the main thing is you use it to save a life because it would turn your party's attacks off. The other options, Smoke Screen. Smoke Screen is just projectile block. I should have brought this to Bone Skinner today, but I didn't think about it in my newbiness, but this is blocks projectiles. Another option for blocking projectiles is Prepare Seal Area. So this skill, you tap it, and then it does a 3-second countdown, and then a circle appears. And then the next time you tap it, it's instant, and it makes a projectile blocking bubble. Also, notice it's already a third of the way cooled down. I believe this skill can cool down while the seal is on the ground. So you could like prepare, if the projectile block is going to be in a specific location, you could use this, have it prepared, and then have it already cooling down for the next time, which is really cool. That's a very neat feature of it. But if it's like, let's say for example, Dagda teleports to a random spot in the room and fires bullets all over the place, and you don't know where she's gonna be, then the best you could do is prepare seal area in the middle of the room, because you know usually you'd want to drop it on top of her, but you've got to know ahead of time where she's going to be. So maybe smoke screen for Dagda, but on a fight where you know where the bubble needs to be, seal area seems really, really nice. Another option that I did not use today that I read about is Scorpion Wire. Scorpion Wire is a pull, so it's a CC, and it holds 2 charges. So if you need more CC, if you're in a fight that needs a lot of it, you could add Scorpion Wire to your kit there. And the websites offer some other suggestions that I didn't really look into, like some of the signets and things like that. I was running this setup today, and maybe once or twice I saved someone with Shadow Refuge, but for the most part, it was just there as an emergency button. And I think that's it for that part. Let's talk about stability and Aegis. Most supports can provide stability and Aegis in a pinch. Now, we are using Well of Bounty off cooldown. It's with Alacrity, it is 7 seconds of stability with a 16-second cooldown. So almost half the time your group just has stability because you're using this to supply other boons. So you can see there's a couple of stacks of stability right there, and they will wear off before the well is available again. Now, if your group needs stability for an upcoming thing, and stability is not currently on them from the well, your second source of it is you go into Shroud and your 5 button. Your 5 button is stability and also Aegis to the group. So they've got just kind of 50% of the time you've got stability 100% of the time, but then you've got one other source of it if that's not enough. So that's certainly not bad. It's a little awkward to me because that means to access your stability, this has to be off cooldown or just like kind of lined up with the problem, or entering Shroud has to be available. However, they're both pretty quick cooldowns, so if you're knowledgeable about the fight, you could be like, okay, we're gonna need a stability in like 5 seconds. This is gonna come off of cooldown in like 2. I'm going to let this come off cooldown, wait a couple more seconds, then go into the Shroud so that I can stability and line it up with the problem, or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. So it's certainly not bad. It's got access to 2 forms of stability. You just need to, you know, plan ahead a few seconds for using them, because Shroud has an 8-second cooldown after you leave it, and Well of Bounty has a 20-second cooldown, both of those reduced by Alacrity. I think that's basically it. Now, the offhand dagger and the offhand pistol, I never used today. There was one moment I was like, ooh, I should have used the dagger there, and that's because the dagger 5 is a... Am I getting this wrong? Stab your foe and vanish. The dagger 5 is a stealth, which I believe because of your traits, yeah, it does a heal around you, so you can do that. And then the pistol 5 is a blind, and the pistol 4 is CC. So you could use the pistol 4 a bunch of times for CC, especially if you have a gun with the paralyzation sigil on it. One of the build options from the Snowcrow's website is to run Scepter pistol and then another pistol. And one of the pistols has transference, so it helps with healing output, and the other pistol has paralyzation, so it helps with your CC. So you swap to the right pistol for the right job. That is another thing that you could do. I did not try that today, but that is another option. The offhand for the thief also affects the 3. True. Yes, for any not thief mains, your 3 skill is a combination of your main hand and offhand weapons. I never really used the 3 today. I think neither of the builds I was looking at on Snowcrows or on Gilgen used the weapon 3. I don't think either one did. It's possible I overlooked it, and you know, I welcome correction if I did, but I don't think either of them did. With the exception, sorry, there was one exception. On Snowcrows, they did mention using the 3 on a teammate, because this skill does something different. So you could target a teammate and then use 3 2 times to trigger Endless Night, which does a bit of barrier, vigor, and regen, but you don't have to. Let's talk about targeting. So one of the issues I had with this class is like, I have played many builds in other MMOs that, you know, required ally targeting. This game just really isn't built around it, and it feels awkward to me to do ally targeting and then enemy targeting back and forth just because of how the game's systems are. So I really dislike playing a build that requires me to target enemy, target ally, target enemy, target ally. So that's like Revenant with their Scepter, or Spectre, for example, to name 2 of them. So with this, I looked up and it's like, yeah, if you were going to go as hard as possible on Spectre, you would be doing some ally targeting from time to time. However, you don't have to anymore. And that's a huge difference from what it was the last time I tried it. You do not have to do ally targeting. You can, like, before the fight, you can target an ally with Siphon and hit them with it one time. Now I'm just going to target this guy, but I'm just going to, zap. So just do that before the fight. And it's a 10-second cooldown. Like, just as soon as you enter into the rate of the strike, just zap one of your teammates. And then they're your tether target, and your healing is also emanating from them. And then for the rest of the encounter, you can just be zapping the enemy with Siphon for boons and play the way that I just showed you, and you're fine. You're fine. Now, again, you could probably squeeze a little bit more out of the class by doing occasional ally targeting, especially with the 3, but it no longer feels required. I cleared the daily strikes today, which includes Bone Skinner, which I mentioned before, has higher healing requirements than any of the normal raid bosses. We cleared Old Lion's Court, which a lot of newbies struggle with, and we cleared Temple of Phoebe. There was a spicy selection of strikes today, and did fine in all of them, except for when someone stood in like a Bone Skinner puddle, which can't heal through that. But yeah, this definitely is a whole lot better than it used to be. I had fun with it. It was very solid. I definitely, if I played it more, I could get more out of it. Because like I said, I made almost no use of my offhand or the 3. And if I learned more about that and built more muscle memory, I could do more with it. In my mind, after only playing this for a couple of hours in Shroud, 3, 4, and 5 were all just emergency heal / barrier. If I was in Shroud, health bars didn't look good, slam on the 3, 4, and 5 keys. 5 was also stability and Aegis if we needed it on demand. And then, like I said, the rotation was pretty simple too. It was pretty easy to learn, even for me with my goldfish brain. So definitely solid. Pistol 4 is a solid CC if you don't have Basilisk Venom. Yep, I mentioned that. Yeah, Pistol 4 is a CC and you can just use it over and over and over as long as you have initiative. You can just, boom, I just used it 4 times back to back. So more CC options there if you need it. In the control settings, you can set a hotkey for target next ally. Yes, if you don't mind adding a hotkey to the list of hotkeys you're already using, there is a thing in the key bindings to target a marked ally or to target the nearest ally. You can use those as well. If you wish to do so. Again, it didn't feel required with the changes they've made, but you would be a better Spectre for doing it. And I think it's very important to stress that because I don't want all the veteran Spectres to be like screaming, oh my God, Muck is training all the newbies. No. I want to say again, I was a newbie trying it out for a few hours. I can already tell it's so much better than it used to be, but also if you wanted to get even more out of it and get the most Spectre out of your Spectre per Spectre, then definitely do some ally targeting from time to time for the appropriate abilities. But yeah. I think that's it. I think that's all I got to say about it. It's pretty good. It's definitely a whole lot better than it was, and I'm happy to see it. And if you've got any questions, problems, thoughts, concerns, or comments about Spectre that you think I missed or glossed over, I'll put it in the comment section down below, and I will fight you there.